We did it like from the time I started here until, I don't know when it stopped. We did it every year.
Yeah.
And I asked if you were saying something, I don't know.
Perfect attendance, very good time to work. Yeah. They used to do that in school too, at graduation, they always announced kids that never missed any school at all. Great.
But you don't know your city.
Isn't that pretty amazing?
Yeah, they throw all that shit in school. I was a kid who got sick from
Yeah,
that.
that's right.
Yeah.
That was a good idea.
How you doing?
Hello, how are you?
Good. The doors were locked.
Oh,
They still?
That's
An
what
officer came over.
do you know if they're still locked?
No, it's being taken care of.
We're trying to keep you out.
I told you I was going to keep it at the audience.
It's too nice of a night.
Yeah, right. I think we have an outdoor meeting. Build a deck off the back of the building.
In COVID, I was doing some outdoor meetings. And we had some in the maintenance garages.
Really?
West Bradford, we had one in the maintenance garage, yeah. Hey, Josh, how are you? Good to see you.
Hey, Doug, how you doing?
What are you doing this week?
Going to Pittsburgh, the came out, and then I'm going to, another state to.
Oh. I'm in town.
You got a class? Yep. Thank you.
No problems with the meetings, but the residents can't come in. How are you doing? Excellent. Did you happen to get the email? I think it's first on the He had tested me, asking me about I'm looking to little expansion.
So his architect calls it.
Oh, okay.
So zoning, what drawings he told me there is drawing aids, his code inspection. I can't give you the determination figures of code inspection.
At least he did contact me.
Yes.
And gave 130.
I talked to him today.
Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the West Goshen Township Board of Supervisors meeting for Thursday, May the 18th, 2023. To start the meeting, will you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be aware this meeting is being live streamed on the Township YouTube channel, and the meeting may also be audio or video recorded by people present in the room. To start the meeting is the opportunity for public comment. Is there anyone attending who would like to raise an issue that is not on the agenda this evening, or who has a question or a comment to the board or staff? This gentleman over here on the left.
I'm kind of representing, well, everybody's here from our neighborhood. We live next to ball fields over here, Marshfield and Cooper Field. We've had an ongoing issue with a neighbor there that lives close to the ball field. He had 2 dogs. He still does, but one of our neighbors who couldn't come tonight because him and his wife had COVID, but he was attacked by the dog, and this has been ongoing for 2 or 3 years. It's what, looked into what all the procedures are to move forward. So we, as a neighborhood, we feel like we can't even walk by the ball fields anymore. I've been chased with my young daughter twice. The dog has been off the leash several times. A lot of the neighbors, we've gotten together and had a little neighborhood meeting, and several of the neighbors have issued or had complaints that I didn't even know, stories from 3-6 months ago last year. It's been an ongoing issue. I did come and talk to an officer at the West Goshen Police Department here. They made a report. There's been reports about this whole thing that's been ongoing. It's just kind of it's not falling on deaf ears. I just feel like up until now, they came yesterday and took the dog. The guy has.
No, they didn't. That's not who took the dog. They weren't home when the police came to take.
Yeah, the first time these people weren't home the first time. The police showed up
But
and
we don't know who took the dog.
No one
Yeah.
took the dog.
Yeah. So anyway, we're just going by what the neighbor said. I didn't actually see them take the dog, so I can't speak to that.
Do we know if they took the dog? Because I don't know.
No, well,
I don't know.
we think of
Sarah.
family members.
Sarah, they did not. It's back on the property.
Okay,
And
yes,
Rowan
I know the SPCA went there with our guys yesterday,
okay,
and
yeah.
they would get.
On Tuesday.
Yeah.
Or Tuesday, yeah.
Yeah, so it's just been an ongoing issue. I mean, everybody's being held hostage, in my opinion.
We feel terrorized. He
Um,
walks around the neighborhood now with the dogs as like a in-your-face kind of thing, because ever since there's been reports that he knows about, he kind of gets a little more brazen. And now he's like walking around in the neighborhood with them.
He lives there with his mother, as far as I know. We just see different people in and out. I mean, I've had conversations with him, and he just thought the guy's got some anger issues. And I just tried to squelch the whole thing, and he just kept on me. I mean, I didn't know what to do. I was standing there, and my young daughter, I told her to take our dog and run, and she was screaming, and I was like, this can't be happening. Yeah, and then it happened. I was walking with a neighbor of ours with his dog, and he came out, and
And I witnessed that.
he had the dog by the neck at the end of the driveway. We didn't say anything to him. We went around, and he started in on us about why do we have to
Walk our little dogs
walk our
around
little
the
dogs
house.
and aggravate his dog, blah, blah, blah. And I was just trying to keep my cool, and then I finally just told him how I felt. So he actually went around and came up. We live on Lawver. I was heading home, and he is on Cedar in Concord. And so I came back the other way to avoid the situation, and he came back with the dog he had it by the neck. And he started in on me again, and I was there with my neighbor, and Arlene, our good neighbor, she was up the street. She also kind of witnessed the whole thing. She came in, and she's just, so basically, we're here tonight to people in the neighborhood, and the guy that got bit, I don't know, he's, I guess pressing charges, and, but
But we want us individually to have our stories, because it's not all about the one that got bit, it's about being
Yeah.
terrorized, about not being able to roam our neighborhood. There's a ball field where the kids go between the ball fields, and then the house is right in the center of where the kids from each Marshfield and Cooper run back and forth. So like now that Steve was bit, it's like all of a sudden, when's a little kid gonna get bit or killed,
So Steve's a big guy. He's probably 6'2", and 225
So he took a
pounds.
hit on the arm protecting his face.
But
So
I
what
can't-
little kid can do
I
that?
really can't imagine if that was a kid walking up the ball field, or an elderly person walking their dog. I mean, it could have been a whole different outcome. And we just
We want a
we-
resolution.
Yeah, we just kind of want everybody to, be aware of it. We've gone to the police, several people have made,
They shouldn't be dog owners. They continue to let them off leash. They've been in my property where my son is, and he came in shaking because the dog was on my property growling. He's done this for years, and they're not safe pet owners. They shouldn't have pets. It's constantly aggressive and off leash, and we all have made statements to the police over the past years, everyone here. It's not safe for our community. It's not safe for our children. It's not safe for us.
When we talk to the police, they say go to the SPCA. The SPCA says go to the police. We saw the dog warden, and she said she doesn't have jurisdiction in our area. So we have nowhere else to go.
so everybody's just a little on edge, to be honest with you, a little frustrated with the whole thing. I mean, there's action, Steve got that bit. I guess
So that's his, like, he's gonna process as far as he can, but we still need this to be solved for our neighborhood.
Did they quarantine the dog when they got bit?
They're not. They're not
Supposedly
getting
that
out.
was the thing.
He doesn't answer the door.
To be able to get the dog, you mean?
Yeah.
When he was 2 years old, my son was riding his first little bike, and the dog came charging at him.
Has it been the same dog for all these years, or is it
Well,
different
it's the
strains
same
of dogs?
owner,
Well, he's
Same
got,
owner, different
he's
dogs?
got two of them the same breed.
and then one of them passed, I guess, so we got another one.
He has
Two
two
dogs.
dogs under his.
And they're both aggressive?
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
The dog that did the most recent bite with
Yeah.
Steve is the younger dog.
Correct.
It's, according to the mother, it's his sister's dog.
That's
Yes,
correct.
yes.
The sister doesn't live there anymore.
Okay.
Right.
So who now owns the dog?
But there has been another report to the police about Bodie, that dog, because he chased our neighbor Deanna, and she reported it, and it's on file at the police department.
Okay, then she should call us back, because I checked every report. I talked to Ashley about this earlier, or late last week. The only report we ever had with Bodie is this bite.
No, I have a screenshot of it because the neighbor got the records,
Mhm.
and Deanna, yeah.
And we checked with the SPCA too, and they never had any reports about Bodie.
I think that would be like our concern, or what we're trying to ask as well is, I think we've gone to the police and we've submitted reports before, but then now we're being told to contact the SPCA. We haven't contacted over the past, I live across the street from this neighbor, and I mean, we've reported dozens of times this dog being off leash. We actually went to court with proof when he pled not guilty to a, dog off leash charge. He has also harassed myself and my partner on our property. When we asked that he put the dog on the leash kindly, he didn't take well to that, similar to Tom. And then he, I don't know if you've experienced this, but he actually uses his mental illness as a threat, saying, you don't know what I'm capable of, don't come by my house. I live across the street from him, so I actually want nothing to do with this. It's just something that we've had to deal with. And the dog bite is, of course, a concern, but I think we're here because we truly believe this is a matter of when and not if it happens again. We live across the street from a softball field, and we've tried our best to warn the east side living field members, but there's really only so much you can control. We know that, he lives on the property right across from the baseball field, and I think it's just a little bit of mixed signals at the moment between the SPCA, West Goshen Police Department, and the dog warden. If we could get, any sort of assistance in who to contact and who to keep that paper trail with, because we have one, that would be the most helpful, I believe, separate to the bite.
I'm not sure we need to worry about the one dog doing all of the incidences. I think we need to say the owner is the one who's, the dogs can all be different, but there have been terrorizing situations with multiple dogs in that household. So it's not like the one dog's problem. It's the ownership of the dog that's a problem.
Just to have a better understanding, so you're saying that the owner allows the dog or dogs to run loose?
Yes.
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 And the dogs then find their way onto your property?
Yes.
Yes. I live behind him.
and have chased all of us before, and
Or our kids.
My question is, can the police department then cite the owner
We've cited it 4 times.
4 times?
And so now,
What does that,
until a child dies.
Well,
These
that's
children
the
will
dog
from one ballpark to another.
specifically dog that we've cited him for being off leash is the one he calls Scooby.
Yes.
But we have 0 record of Scooby ever attacking anyone.
so what?
Well, it doesn't matter if he's been aggressive.
No, we've charged him with being off leash every time. So we have no, and neither does the SPCA.
And Bodie's been off of
I
leash.
should say, but I don't know about Scooby with the SPCA.
Oh, we should probably say
He's
that.
been off, Bodie has been off leash a lot
We
too.
have no reports of that by name. No.
Well, this, yeah.
description.
How am I supposed to know the name of his dog? Like, if I was being attacked, I don't think I'd know the color of the dog. You know what I mean? Like, for me to say Scooby versus Bodie, I
Well,
have no
We
idea.
know that that Steve's incident was with Bodie, and we have
I
0
know, but
reports
we
of any
don't
other
know
dog
who
bites.
ran after him, because we don't know the difference between these dogs. You know what I mean?
Right, but he wasn't, not that you should be bitten, but he wasn't bitten, and unfortunately with the state dog laws, that's a big difference.
But he's threatening people.
He's using them as weapons. He's terrorizing us.
It's terrifying.
I don't understand how it's okay for him to own dogs when he's not following the dog rules and it's proven to be aggressive. I don't understand how it's allowed.
So to get a dog declared a dangerous dog, which would be a goal, being bitten, it'd be pretty
This
much.
is absurd, right?
I don't
Are we
disagree with
hearing
you,
this?
I don't disagree with you. And
Everybody's-
even if we could overcome getting a dog named a dangerous dog, he still gets to keep it. The fines go up if he violates the rules.
So how much is the fine?
You're killing me.
It's a sliding fine, I would have to look, I think the first time he
So a
was fined,
child needs to die.
It's
Is that-
in fact.
less than $200 and it goes up. I think the last time it might have been up near 1,000.
Isn't a law passing now today that is for dog laws
Yes.
to be more criminal?
For off leash and for barking.
For barking?
But you
Well, I
can't.
could,
You
that-
can't.
that's
Not
what
like
they have
you're
to
saying.
say.
It's for
everything.
Chief, it's for everything. It's not just from
We
owning
can't.
a dog.
Well, the 2 things
What, the
SPCA
can?
can.
And they haven't been very
They're not very
receptive at all.
Well, every time we call them, they come out, but unfortunately, when they go knock on the door, they
So
get
what do we do
nothing.
now? That's our question.
Nobody-
But what if my son gets bit and dies and everyone knows that this is happening and not stopping it? Like, isn't there a law that can say he did this, you did 4 reports, that you can say it needs to go further? Or that he
But the
needs to...
reports, at least what I read, when he was cited, was he's letting his dog off leash. Not that the dog bit anyone or attacked anyone.
But I have this right here saying that the dog,
Well, that's a different, according to you, that's a different dog.
So,
no, this is Bodie.
okay, so.
No, he was
Yeah.
cited for Scooby.
So what happens in Steve's case, and he can say, okay, I'm getting a lawyer, I'm pressing charges, we're
So I'm
going
waiting to see the outcome of that with the SPCA.
Okay,
They're
and
still
he's,
investigating.
and he gets a lawyer and he can sue them and.
Absolutely,
Yes.
100%.
Well, then he would be considered a dangerous dog too, and then at that point.
Well, not necessarily, but it's possible.
There's a whole procedure under the law to be
Yeah.
declared. So there's a difference between civil and criminal. So under the criminal statutes, which is what the chief is talking about, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong here, all of you who have had incidents should be reporting them to the best of your ability in terms of the date. And again, you don't have to know the name of the dog, but if you can describe the dog, what occurred, and then,
Both brown with hippos now.
okay, so it's not too late for them to make these
No.
complaints. So do that. There's this record. Describe again, if you don't know the exact date, get as best as you can to when it occurred.
with you pictures of him off leash right at my property.
We just have one person talking at a time so we can all follow the conversation. So we just
But-
hear what Kristen has to say.
But also understand that, the criminal law is, the police and potentially the SPCA handle the criminal law, but you as citizens have private causes of action. So Steve, he can sue under a civil claim as well. So only the police can bring a criminal matter. They do it based on complaints and incidents that occur, but there's also civil rights. And it sounds like you as a community have some civil actions potentially against this gentleman.
If we could sue civilly for like terrorizing threats to the neighborhood.
I don't know the exact, there's definitely some probably civil action that could be asserted.
You could definitely sue for being bit. There's no question about
But I'm
that.
not gonna wait for that to happen.
I'm saying
Well,
Steve's
Steve
case.
can, right.
I'm just saying, it's like, it's absurd.
I have a question. When you said to report it though, is that to West Goshen Police
Yes.
Department?
Yes.
Or, and then will that be communicated to the SPCA?
Yes,
I would do it to both. I would do it to both.
So you would recommend? that
Send
we
an
all-
email to the police and to the SPCA on the same email.
Okay.
And you have taken many actions, Sarah, already.
Very many.
Well, just with West Goshen Police, because unfortunately, the dog incidents have escalated to the point where he feels that if the police are walking around his yard, he believes that it's me or my partner calling. So it's turned into verbal harassment.
He retaliates.
Correct, like.
Yeah.
Well, you can, presumably, Chief, you can complain about that as well.
And I
You
have.
should not be being threatened and harassed, and that's a different
That's
situation again.
And the police were very receptive, and I'm grateful for that. It's just, I think there's only so much you can do before.
Well, we can respond to any kind of harassment or threats, but understand that I know of some of the reports I read, when he pleads not guilty, because of who he is, that's what he's going to do. You're going to have to come to court with us and testify what happened. And in a lot of instances, I'm not speaking about anyone individually, you guys didn't want to do that.
Well, look at it like he's going to terrorize you if you go against him. He's going to make it his job to make sure that you might put a sale sign in your house and he wins.
It's not the dogs.
Yeah, exactly.
It's this person.
I'm aware.
And he needs to be punished somehow before something tragic. I mean, something tragic has happened. It could be worse. There are children all over my
Hundreds every day that go from my yard to the baseball field, right where Steve was bit, and Steve was just walking. He did nothing but walk. He walks every day.
Yes.
I truly think my 2-year-old son would have been eaten by this dog if my husband didn't lift him up within 2 seconds. I mean, he was ready. He was.
So that needs to be reported.
Yeah, so I didn't know anything about this guy when when my son was 2 years old. I didn't know anything about the dogs. I just thought it was some freak dog, and visiting. I had no idea. And then I saw him off leash probably 4 times, and I live on a different part. I live in a different, street, not even near this person's house, and I have seen the dog off leash. I have told so many moms to be careful, and so many neighbors for years, and people just blew it off, but then this incident just happened, and that it was just a matter of time before someone got
Well, let's try to find a way forward. So clearly we've absolutely heard the concern, the horror that you experienced in your neighborhood with this particular dog owner. What is the way forward? I'm looking at the chief and our solicitor Kristen in terms of what advice we need to give residents in terms of every incident, every situation where it's off leash or being terrorized by the owner or whatever.
I think both the behavior of the dogs as well as the behavior of the individual, any instances that you have in the past, or if it happens, hopefully it doesn't, but if something else happens, immediately, while it's contemporaneous in your brain, send an email, describe with as much specificity as you can what occurred. We'll try to compile that. I want to do a little bit more research to figure out, what potentially, what crimes or what civil actions or, I need to look into it a little bit more. I don't know to be honest, I don't know the difference between whether the police or the SPCA but I do know that as much information as we can gather will help us chart a path forward.
And if I could ask Chief Carroll, you said he's been cited 4 times in the past. What has he been cited for, and what has been the resolution of those?
For the dog being off leash, and he was found guilty or pled guilty all the time.
I'm guilty. Okay.
So what's the penalty?
It's a fine.
How much?
It's a sliding fine. So I think it probably slides between 50 and I don't know what the time is.
Up to $1,000 for the fifth fine and criminal penalties associated with it. If we approve it tonight.
Right.
Yeah, if we approve the ordinance tonight.
I do know that the neighbor that got bit, she filed to find out anything that happened since 2020 with him and the address, and there was 99 pages of incidents that happened with him, with the dog, with other people, and then criminal. I don't know all of it. I started to try to look through it, and that's where I got Deanna's statement. But there's a lot, and it's not really safe. So.
Just to answer your question about the fines, the way the current ordinance is written, the first violation would be fined in an amount not less than $50, but not more than $200. But anything subsequent from that would be pay a fine for each violation in an amount not less than $200, but not more than $600. So if it's the same violation, then it could become up to $600.
And then what if the fines aren't paid?
And if there are criminal fines, there's a warrant for his arrest.
He has no warrants.
So this is responsible.
Right now, it's not. Right now, tonight we're going to review and look at the changing it from a civil to a criminal offense.
To the chief, what is the response when the police arrive? Is he cooperative?
He generally doesn't talk to us a lot. Like when we went to the house that night, his mom answered the door, and that's who told us which dog it was and who owned the dog.
She said she.
She said her daughter.
Her
That's
dog.
what she told. That's what she told us.
And that's true.
And we have the paperwork that we got later did have her dog.
I met it when it was a brand new puppy and he wasn't there when she got it. Then he moved back and she left.
Oh, that's a good point. Do they have license on the dogs? Just say who owns them?
Yeah, who looks into that? Yes,
Yeah. I would, because they've been there so many times, I would think they probably do, but I haven't asked that question.
When an incident's reported as being off leash, I mean, to me, dog wandering around is one thing. An aggressive dog attacking people, off leash doesn't sound like the right description for what that incident is.
Not for that incident, it's not. But that incident is not one he was fined for yet, because the SPCA is still looking into it. The off leashes were prior incidents with the other dogs.
No, but even the off-leash attacking her son, and
Yeah.
the father picks them up. There's
I
a
don't-
whole, I know, but I'm saying they are all like crazy.
I would report all
But
of
is the
these,
incident reported as dog off leash? Not much information, or is it reported as an aggressive dog off leash, threatening,
Well, it's
attacking?
Well,
reported-
it depends on
Yeah,
what
sure,
was said,
yeah.
right?
Well, this is to Christie's point about getting a documentation around
Okay.
this.
Yeah, it sounds more like the incident there is more like an assault, just like somebody came in to you with a knife or a gun.
Even
They
if
send
it
a dog
is,
on you,
it's
then
still-
that's different than just a dog running around.
If the individual has this dog on a leash, does he use the dog in a threatening manner when he walks by you?
Yes.
So again, this is an incident that you should be reporting.
What he just did to Steve.
Yes.
Didn't he chase
Does he
him
hold him
after
by the
him?
collar?
He retaliated.
Right.
I mean, again, to Sean's point, that it sounds like if he's, somebody mentioned it, using the dogs as weapons to terrorize and threaten you, that there's other crimes that he's potentially committing. But the chief needs that to be reported, the specificity and dates that citations can be
Like,
issued.
doesn't he circle your house with the dogs? Like he purposely goes in front of Sarah's house and just like wanders around, you know?
I think that this is the bite itself was the catalyst to all of us actually communicating with one another and hearing all of these stories. We've said, I mean, we all have had issues and maybe not always reported them, but this has been the first time that we've all discussed it, so we will report them now. I mean, I don't know how far back I can go with harassment.
Let me just ask a question out to our solicitors. So, obviously giving advice about moving forward is one thing. Is there anything that can be done with the incidents that have happened to date that may or may not have been reported to the degree of?
I think we have to look at it. Depends on what they are. Yeah, it might be crimes.
To even backdate.
Yeah.
If you can remember and get specific information about what happened and make that complaint, chief said, do it.
Yeah. Well, we need to understand that, yeah.
I think,
Like how many
we didn't, as a group, we know each other, but nobody really said anything, and I never said anything like 2 years ago when he came to my house. I just thought that's a one-time incident, I kind of let it go, it didn't really, and I did report it, because I was like, kids and everything, and then as soon as we started hearing everybody else's story, that's when we said, okay, something's got to be done before it is too late. And Steve is too late, to be honest, to be honest with you, in my opinion. I mean, that's outrageous. Like I said, if that was anybody else, a kid, whatever, an elderly person walking, which they do, it would have been a different story. I mean, and everybody's just kind of like fed up with it. And I don't want to be one of those people on the news, like my wife said, and then it's too late. I mean, the guy I was walking with, and he said, did you see him reach in his pocket? And I said, no, because I was looking at him, I was looking at the dog, I didn't So I'm not here to accuse anybody of having a gun or whatever, but I'm thinking to myself, it just clicked and I was like, I didn't even notice, but I don't even want to go there. You know, I mean,
I think
it's just a dangerous
You
situation.
need to comment about the other dog, the dog that got attacked and bitten, right? Mary Keith's dog.
Mary Keith's dog got attacked, yes.
Yeah, but that was years ago and she didn't report it. But that was I think Scooby. But just as we were coming here, my neighbor took a picture and he has another new pit bull that he just started walking around with the other one just today at 5:30.
On the leash.
I think so.
You can tell one, it looks like there's a leash, but you don't know how many are on the leash.
And those dogs are strong. I saw them about 2 days ago, and one of the dogs decided to have needed to take a leak. He just pulled him like he does. He had the two dogs, and it just pulled him right into the yard. So.
So Chris, you said you need to do a little bit of research around what else, in terms of an ultimate outcome, could be possible with this, right?
Yeah.
So how do we keep the conversation going?
I would ask them all within the next couple of days to please send an email to the chief, and I can look through them and talk and figure out.
Send emails even though we've already had.
We need it in writing.
We have it,
We're not going to remember.
that's
We need
definitely
names,
right now,
we need
but
dates.
we don't have
Only
them.
ones
I
we
have no
haven't
idea.
reported.
Yeah.
So we can report back stuff.
Yes.
Okay, and is the email on the website?
Who do you want to go to, chief?
They got it in cards on.
Should I copy that one?
We're not going to get to me for like 5 minutes, right? The report, I can run next door to the car. So if you mind waiting 5 minutes, I'll
So the plan here really is for you to be able to do as much as you can in terms of documenting past incidents, anything that happens going forward, including even if it's just kind of intimidation and threatening, not a dog off leash, to report that. And then with that body of information, our solicitor can look into what laws could be being violated and broken, and then have a game plan with the police as to how to respond. Is that fair, Chief?
Yes.
Because there was a Facebook, like you wrote on Facebook, I told you what would happen if you walked your dogs around.
So it was next door. It was next door. The next door house.
Sir,
Oh, the next door.
Your email's on the website. That's true. My email is on the website.
Oh, it is on the website?
Yes. Good looking out.
So is that considered terroristic that you put
No,
some?
On neighborhood app, he says, I told you what would happen if you walked your little dogs around.
Yeah. Not by itself.
It's not.
No,
Sir, can I have
not
your name for the record?
No.
Yeah,
Sorry, what?
Thomas Bond.
Thomas Bond, okay.
And do you want to, does somebody want to give their, well, I guess what emails, but like as a spokesperson for us to report back? Does that make
I
sense?
believe Mr. Bond said he was a spokesperson for the,
Well, no, he's
Yeah, I
just
mean,
standing
I-
there.
Yeah, I mean, I was just,
okay.
Give more information than anybody.
I mean, I'm going to ask our township manager to make sure there's a follow-up on a public
Jamie
agenda.
lives right behind the guy.
I live right behind him. I've lived there for
Properties are
15 years.
adjacent to each other.
My name is Jamie Paes, P-A-E-S.
You want to be a spokesperson for it?
Or somebody that he can contact back?
Yeah, he's your contact me.
Because then we can let you know, hey, we're going to revisit this at a particular meeting and see what information Kristen has found out and what
Do you need
what
my
police
email?
has looked
Why don't,
at.
since yours is a personal email, since this is a publicly recorded meeting and yours is a personal,
Okay.
I'll give you mine.
Okay.
It is C Bayshore. Yep. B as in boy, A S H O R. There, it looks like she's doing something.
I'm not ready.
Let me know when you're ready.
C-B-A.
SHORE at westgoshen.org. Yes, it is.
Chief,
But I'm here.
The email linked to you is police@westgoshen.org.
that's fine, that works fine, I get it.
So I use this email to give you mine, and then, okay.
And, can you spell your last name again, please?
P as in puppy, A-E-S.
Spell your first name.
J-A-I-M-E.
That's not how it was.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It seems like this has been going on for some time. Can you give me an idea how long? Are we talking months, years?
Years.
Years.
Scooby reports go back about 5 years. And like I said, the first named reportability was the most recent one, but you just showed one from 21.
Yeah, he was living in the baseball field in his truck with his dog when my son was 2. My son is 9 right now. I wouldn't let my son outside because the dog would run onto my property, and I did call about him like squatting in the field. He would like wake up and pee right in front of my house on the field.
The
He
dog
was living there for
or
a month.
the man?
You guys
The
can-
man.
What?
The dog or the man?
The man.
The man would pee.
He wasn't allowed to be in his home because his sister had a restraining order, so he had to live at the ball field in his truck across the street.
That's different. His mom kicked him out, and then his sister got a restraining order on him for strangling him, which we witnessed. as
Okay,
a
so
neighbor.
if we could just
Yeah.
kind of make sure we have a good wrap on where this is going. So I think I'll try to summarize what we said again. So anything that you have in terms of an incident that you can recall that you believe may not have been documented, if you can provide as much information as you can to the police chief, that would be great. Anything going forward, obviously, we want to document it. Kristen, our solicitor, will look into that, the information you provide, and as to what kind of laws may or may not be being broken, and what kind of actions can be taken with the police department to address the situation.
The only thing to add to that is I think Kristen wanted to be copied on the same
Yeah,
email as the
yeah.
chief.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And then I will follow up with Miss Hayes when this will be discussed again after Kristen's done her research.
Yeah. And I want to thank you all for collectively coming,
Yes, thank
because
you.
individually it sounds like you're all obviously have had incidents and feel threatened and terrorized by this, but it's all about collectively getting together and saying, oh, how can we move this forward and come into
There are a lot more people
I'm sure.
that didn't come, but there's a lot more stories too that I found just talking to neighbors, warning them not to walk by there after Steve got bit, and they tell me stories.
So please encourage them to do the same thing we're telling you to do.
Okay.
Thank you
you
for
very
listening.
much.
Truly, thank you. It means a lot.
So how do you feel about being telling it with all of us telling our story? Like I feel like you're gonna be like a target. I feel bad.
I mean,
I'm
what
worried about her honesty.
we'll report it as it comes in, and, you know, I just feel, again, we appreciate that this can be, you know, kind of told, and that, you know, I mean, that the township is just, I mean, we knew the police was too, but just as aware of this problem, because I truly believe, again, it's a matter of when and not if.
Our goal is to try to do everything we can now to prevent it becoming a worse problem. God forbid that happen. So thank you everyone for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for coming in and speaking tonight.
And, if you have questions in the future, and you need someone with all of you, just come by the neighborhood, just let me know.
Okay.
I feel like it should be patrolling when the baseball and games are happening. So just like so many kids.
I mean, I stopped down there when Saturday morning when they were just kind of everybody's park, and I just walked up to it, you know, handful of people and said, listen, see that outfit there, just, I don't care if we gotta get in your car and go all the way around to the next field. And the one guy said, you know, he's holding his hand at this like 3-year-old, and he's like, I just walked by there to go see my son play baseball, and I just said, well, just avoid it and tell everybody here. And my wife also,
Where we all put it.
you know, she called the president, warned them. So I just don't want to see anybody else get hit. But I appreciate everybody's time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry if it took any time away from you.
Okay, we'll move on to agenda item number 4. Doug, I'm sorry, I asked you a public comment.
Can you wait, carry on the business?
Okay.
Next time.
Agenda item number 4, which is the authorization to advertise the proposed amendment to Chapter 25 alarm devices. Chris, you can introduce this.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So before the board this evening is proposed ordinance to amend Chapter 25, which deals with alarm devices. The proposed ordinance would amend Section 2519A1 of Chapter 25 in order to outline that the first and second false alarm would receive a warning. This would align the chapter with the amendment to the Township's fee schedule that the board approved at the May 2nd, 2023 meeting. This section only addresses alarms associated with false alarm calls responded to by the police department. False alarms associated with calls responded to by fire companies are addressed in Chapter 25A of the Code of Ordinances, and the language is consistent with the fee structure that was approved by the board in January. Authorized for advertisement, the proposed ordinance could be considered for adoption at the June 6th meeting of the board.
Thanks, Chris. Chief, I just had a question for you on this. The proposed change is to have the first and second alarm just be a warning, and then scheduled fine, escalating fines beyond that. Have you had a chance to look at this and feel comfortable? You believe that 2 warnings is reasonable?
Yes, I do. I think most of the majority of the alarms we get in a year are once or twice, and then the big violators that we get repetitive, they go up well above twice. So I think that's a fair way to give people somewhat of a break, but then trying to get the people that are violating the laws.
In your monthly report, we often see responses to alarms that have not been, don't have a permit. Do you know what the fine structure is for someone who has an alarm that has not got a permit for that alarm?
It was written in the book that you had to pay your registration fee, and you didn't get that first warning. You skipped up and got the first fine.
The first fine line?
That's the way it was before we changed it. I'm assuming that part didn't get changed.
Well, no, if you don't have a valid permit, it's considered a third false alarm.
Right, that's the first time we get fined.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
I had 2 changes I want to run by Kristen. I had in the first paragraph, for the purposes of defraying the cost and resources to the township is what I added. And then at the end of that same paragraph, I added for a first alarm incident. So basically, they're getting violated if they don't have a permit for the third false alarm cost for a first alarm incident.
I'm not following you what you're saying,
Okay.
so maybe I could...
So what I added was basically that at the end.
I think that makes it more confusing, but I have to sit here and read it again.
Okay.
Well, that's not, no, so this last sentence is supposed to be just identifying what the penalty is if you don't have it registered. So you're adding for a first alarm incident.
It's really for any incident. It's really for any incident, right? If you don't have a permit.
If you don't have a permit, you automatically get fined.
As if it's the third false alarm. So I think by adding that phrase, if you want to actually adds confusion to it. It's adding confusion because if you're, what we're saying is that the violation is not having it registered.
Right.
So the fine for that will be whatever the fine is for a third false alarm.
Yeah.
Not for a first alarm incident. It's just whatever it is. If you have 3 false alarms, that's what the fine should be.
It just changed.
Does that make sense? And maybe we could say whatever that fine is.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to change, right?
That's
so we don't have to specify what it's just the third false alarm fee. What you would be fined if you have no permit.
Right. If you have no permit, you're going to get a
Fine.
Saying
false
fine
alarm
as if it was your
amount.
third false alarm.
Yes.
It's
False alarm, maybe we should say fine amount.
under the schedule.
The fee for
Yeah, the fee for the third.
shall pay the township an amount equal to the fee for a third false alarm.
It says
Okay.
there. It was a Chris $100.
$100, yes.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board on the text?
No, I'll make the motion to adopt this.
This is authorization to advertise.
Yeah. So John has made a motion to authorize advertisement of this change to the ordinance. I will second that.
That's what the one change includes.
Yeah, we'll add the
What the change, one change.
One change, yes, classroom resources. Are there any public comments or questions on the motion? Okay, then we're ready to take a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition?
No opposition.
Did you say aye?
I did not. I was concentrating.
Okay. All right, so the motion passes 3-0. Thank you. Next is agenda item number 5, discussion and possible approval of ordinance number 7, 2023, amending chapter 36, dogs of the West Goshen Township Code of Ordinances. Kristen.
So we did advertise this in the Daily Local News on May 10th, and I also sent a copy of the ordinance to the Law Library and the Daily Local with an email on May 3rd. This would amend the dog chapter, which is chapter 36 of the West Goshen Code, specifically section 36-6, which is titled Violation and Enforcement Provision, to modify the method of enforcement from a civil enforcement to a summary criminal enforcement, and to increase the maximum fine to $1,000. And I know there was discussion at the last meeting. It does not mean that the fine always will be $1,000. The fine will be established by the district justice. But under the second-class township code, if there's any ordinance that's enforced in a criminal manner, it does authorize you to allow the district court to go up to $1,000 for each violation. So that was the change that was made.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions on the ordinance?
Well, I did have an issue with the increase of the fines, because I didn't feel that there was a problem that needed fixing, but just hearing a conversation we just had earlier tonight, apparently there is. So maybe increasing it to up to $1,000, according to the judge's decision, might be appropriate in some situations. So I'm willing to adjust my position on the matter. But I do agree that it should be criminally enforced rather than just civilly. That just makes sense.
Thank you, John. Well, I will make the motion to adopt ordinance number 7, 2023, which amends chapter 36 of the West Goshen Township Code of Ordinances. Is there a second?
I will second that.
Thank you. Are there any public comments or questions? Okay, we're ready to take a vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, the motion passes 3-0. Thank you. Agenda item number 6 is discussion and possible approval of ordinance number 8, 2023, amending chapter 78, which is vehicles and traffic, of the West Goshen Township Code of Ordinances. Kristen.
So again, this was something that Dave asked me to put together. We advertised tonight's hearing in the Daily Local on May 10th. I sent a copy of the ordinance for public inspection to Law Library and Daily Local on May 3rd. It identifies where there are currently, I believe, stop signs, but it's not been ordained within the code. There are stop sign locations. So we are adding that to section 78-9. Chapter 78 is your vehicle and traffic code. And then also we are changing some of the direction of travel on some of your, actually no, that's all within that same stop sign intersection. But then we are establishing speed limits on Fallen Timbers Lane and prohibiting parking in these cul-de-sac streets at Trot Lane, Gallup Lane, and Fallen Timbers Lane. Establishing no parking regulations. Again, you did speak about this at your last meeting. I know there was some discussion about that cul-de-sac, but it is now before you for potential approval.
On the cul-de-sac, was there no parking the complete length of the cul-de-sac, or was it just within the circle of the cul-de-sac? I forget how
Just in the circle.
It's just in the circle. It does location. So when it says beginning of cul-de-sac, I know we talked about this last time. Is that's legally means where the circle is?
Right at the beginning of the boat.
Okay. Would that legally mean that?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? So I'll make the motion to adopt ordinance number 8, 2023, amending chapter 78.
And I'll second it.
Any public comments or questions? Okay, ready to take a vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Is there any opposed? Motion passes 3-0. Thank you. Okay, next is agenda item number 7, which is discussion and possible approval of resolution, resolution number 16, 2023, waiving the quarterly sewer fees for Fame Fire Company number 3, Goshen Fire Company, and Good Fellowship Ambulance Company. So Chris has prepared a memo on this, so I'll just introduce the subject. It's proposed resolution will waive the quarterly sewer charges for Fame Fire Company, Goshen number 3, Goshen Fire Company, Good Fellowship Ambulance Company, which is situated within the township. Chris reviewed section 6623.b of the Township's Code of Ordinances, and typically firehouses and municipal buildings are scheduled to be billed at the same rate as residential units, which is currently $120 a quarter. However, the Township's practice in the past has not to issue these quarterly bills to fire and emergency medical service providers with these facilities in West Goshen. Recently, it was brought to the Township manager's attention that the bills have been issued to Fame Fire Company number 3 due to increased water usage at the facility after their recent expansion of facilities there. However, there was documentation dating back to April 1985 in the form of letters that indicate that these charges had previously been agreed by the board to be waived. Although there's no formal record of action to waive the charges, the proposed resolution tonight is intended to memorialize this practice that we've had. Chris, anything to add to that?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to add one thing. It also came to my attention recently that Fame did pay a few of those bills that were issued in error, approximately $767. I recommend we return those funds to
That was in 22 or?
Yes, and that was for the second and third quarters of 2022.
Because they were being billed at a usage rate, not at the quarterly rate, right?
Correct, and based on the documentation from April 1985 of the Township, they shouldn't have been billed at all.
Okay, so can we do a motion to approve the resolution and a separate motion to refund the amounts that have been paid?
Yes, I think that would be appropriate.
All right. Does anyone wish me to read the resolution? You would like it to? Okay. So resolution number 16, 2023 is a resolution of West Goshen Township, Pennsylvania, Chester County, Pennsylvania, waiving the quarterly sewer charges for Fame Fire Company number 3, Goshen Fire Company, and Good Fellowship Ambulance Company. Whereas the West Goshen Township Board of Supervisors has adopted quarterly sewer charges for firehouses and municipal buildings pursuant to section 66-23.b of the West Goshen Township Code of Ordinances. And whereas Fame Fire Company number 3, Goshen Fire Company, and Good Fellowship Ambulance Company all have facilities located in West Goshen Township that are connected to the sanitary sewer system. And whereas West Goshen Township has not historically issued quarterly bills to Fame Fire Company number 3, Goshen Fire Company, and Good Fellowship Ambulance Company in recognition of their service to the community. And whereas the West Goshen Township Board of Supervisors desires to continue and memorialize this practice in an effort to support the local fire and emergency service providers to West Goshen Township, we're therefore resolving adopting this resolution today. So I will make the motion to adopt the resolution number 16, 2023. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Tina. Are there any questions or comments on the resolution?
I'm just curious, you said that what triggered this was increased water usage at the Fame Firehouse. Is that because of the living program, do you think?
I believe so, yes. They did that expansion. I believe, Steve, correct me, they have 5? 6, okay. They have 6.
Is that something new now, Steve, over the past year?
Excuse me?
Is that something different now over the past year? They have?
Yeah, they finished their construction project and they have a facility so 6 people can live there.
Okay.
Just like what we're doing to the well, too, it's the same.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, everybody take a vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Is there any opposition? The motion passes 3-0. Thank you. So, Chris, what was the amount that needs to be reimbursed?
It's $767 and change. I don't remember the exact amount off the top of my head, but it's roughly that.
So I will make the motion to reimburse Fame Fire Company number 3 the amount of approximately $767 for sewer bills that they've paid to date. That's about right.
I'll second that.
Okay. Thank you, John. Is there any questions or comments on the motion? Doug?
Is it the portion of the hospital that's in the township, do they pay sewer bills?
I'm sorry, do they pay sewer bills? Yes. Yeah. You mean Chester County Hospital, right?
So is there any consideration to?
That's a lot of sewer.
That's a lot of sewer. They're also, I believe, they're also a for-profit entity.
I was just going to say.
Versus these 3 entities, which are non-profit, one of which is also volunteer. Fame Fire Company is a volunteer fire company.
Completely volunteer. I mean, they're volunteers with the other organizations.
Yeah.
Okay, so ready to take a vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Hearing none, the motion passes 3-0. Okay, so now we're on to agenda item number 8, discussion and possible approval of resolution number 17, 2023, declaring the week of May 21st, 2023 to May 27th, 2023 as National Emergency Medical Services Week. So, is there a board member, Tina, would you like to introduce this topic?
Sure. The week is May 21st through the 27th. It's considered Emergency Medical Service Week. The theme this year is where emergency care begins. And just to give a little background on that, in 1974, President Gerald Ford authorized EMS Week to celebrate EMS practitioners and the important work they do in our nation's communities. National Emergency Medical Services Week brings together local communities and medical personnel to honor the dedication of those who provide the day-to-day life-saving services of medicine's front line. EMS Week is presented by the American College of Emergency Physicians in partnership with the National Associations of Emergency Medical Technicians. Together, they both lead annual EMS Week activities. These organizations are working to ensure that the important contributions of EMS practitioners in safeguarding the health, safety, and well-being of their communities are fully celebrated and recognized. On behalf of West Goshen Township Administration, I commend the work of the EMS providers who service the township and larger Westchester area community. I also want to add to that on May 25th, Good Fellowship is going to celebrate National EMS Week from 5 to 7:30. That's an event they're holding right at their facility there. So just encourage anybody to go and support them and tell them how much we appreciate them. In addition to that, did you want me to read the resolution?
If somebody wants to hear it, fine.
Anybody want to hear the resolution?
Good, okay. It's quite long, so.
You saved me.
Yeah. Okay, so, Gina, would you like to make a motion to adopt the resolution?
Yes, I'd like to make that motion to adopt the resolution.
Number 17, 2023. Yeah.
Right.
I'll second.
Thank you, John. Any questions or comments about the resolution? Okay, we'll take a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, the motion passes 3-0. Thank you, Tina. Next is agenda item number 9, which is discussion and possible approval of resolution number 18, 2023, declaring the week of May 14th to May 20th, 2023 as National Police Week. John, would you like to introduce this one?
I'll take this one. And this is a resolution of the West Goshen Township Board of Supervisors in Chester County, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, proclaiming the week of May 14th through May 20th, 2023 as National Police Week. Whereas there are more than 800,000 law enforcement officers serving in communities across the United States, including the dedicated members of the West Goshen Township Police Department. And whereas since the first recorded death in 1786, there are currently 23,785 law enforcement officers in the United States have made the ultimate sacrifice and been killed in the line of duty. And whereas the names of these dedicated public servants are engraved on the walls of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial in Washington, D.C., and whereas 556 new names of fallen heroes are being added to the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial this spring, including 224 officers killed in 2022 and 232 officers killed in previous years. And whereas the service and sacrifice of all officers killed in the line of duty will be honored during the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund's 35th Candlelight Vigil in the evening of May 13, 2023. And whereas the West Goshen Township Police Department currently has 32 officers serving in distinction and should be honored for their services. And whereas the West Goshen Township Board of Supervisors desires to recognize the officers serving in the West Goshen Township Police Department for their service and sacrifices by declaring the week of May 14th, 2023 through May 20th, 2023 as National Police Week. Now therefore be it resolved, the Board of Supervisors of West Goshen Township do hereby designate the week of May 14th to the 20th, 2023 as National Police Week, and encourage the community to observe the week with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities to recognize the members of the West Goshen Township Police Department. And with that, I'd just also like to commend Chief Carroll for your service for our community and for your department as well. The main functions of this board is to provide essential services, and police services is number one on that list. So thank you.
I'd like to echo those sentiments as well, and I guess tonight we had another example where the community needs the services of the police department to feel safe, and you know, I know you guys do a wonderful job, so we thank you all for that.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's, John, would you like to make the motion to adopt the
make the
resolution? Okay, I will second the motion. Is there any public comments or questions? Doug?
Is this being done every year? Is it ongoing?
Yeah, I believe these are every year, you know, recognition of these keep, like the EMS one we just did and now the police one. I mean, it's appropriate that these organizations and folks are recognized for the dedication and the effort they put into serving the community, so.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. Okay, let's ready to take a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, the motion passes 3-0. Thank you, John. Next is agenda item number 10, discussion and possible authorization to sell the following surplus equipment in the West Goshen Township Public Works Department, 2010 skid steer loader. Chris?
Mr. Chairman, before the board this evening is a request for authorization to sell the 2010 skid steer loader that's currently with the West Goshen Police Department. As part of the Township's 2023 budget, a new skid steer loader was allocated with the new piece of equipment being received on March 30th, 2023. We previously traded in this type of equipment, however, given the condition of the previous skid steer loader and the attachments, it may be more advantageous to pursue auctioning the item. Our street superintendent, Mark Bertolami, did some research on recent skid steer loaders on Municipid earlier this year, and I provided the results of that research. The item in the memo that's before the board, in bold and underlined, is the most comparable to our piece of equipment, based on Mr. Bertolami's research. Additionally, at the time of the purchase, we did get a price for the trade-in, which was valued at approximately $37,000, and Mark believes that we would get anywhere from $30,000 to $45,000 for this piece of equipment, which would include the attachments. If authorized for sale, the skid steer loader will be placed on Municipid for public auction, with the winning bid brought back to the board for approval once the bidding closes.
But we, like the trade-in now, we've lost the option for that, having received the equipment?
Yes.
Okay. So we don't, if we only get low-ball prices that we know are not what that the equipment's worth more than that, we don't have to accept a bid, right?
No, you can
so we can always rebid it later on.
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions from the board? Okay, and I would like to make the motion to authorize selling the 2010 skid steer loader on Municipid.
I'll second that motion.
Is there any questions or comments? Okay, ready to take a vote? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, the motion passes 3-0. Agenda item number 11 is discussion regarding the sale of the following surplus vehicles in the West Goshen Township Police Department that has been previously awarded: 2015 Ford Explorer XLT and a 2016 Ford Interceptor sedan. Chris?
Mr. Chairman, before the board this evening is discussion regarding those two surplus vehicles in the West Goshen Police Department that were previously awarded by the board. I outlined the winning bids there, and after the bids were awarded, Captain Midio and I both attempted to make arrangements with the winning bidders to pay for and pick up the vehicles. Unfortunately, both individuals ceased communication with us. They were reported to Municipid, with one of those individuals being permanently banned from using their service, as he also failed to pay the necessary buyer's fee. I did contact the second highest bidders for both of these vehicles, which I outlined before the board. The second highest bidder for the 2015 Ford Explorer XLT, Michael McNabb, is still interested in the vehicle and will adhere to his previous bid amount of $10,100, which was $100 less than the previous winning bid amount. Unfortunately, the second highest bidder for the sedan does not have the available funds to purchase the vehicle at this time, but would rebid on the item if a new bid listing is issued. So based on this information, I would recommend awarding the bid for the 2015 Ford Explorer XLT to Mike McNabb in the amount of $10,100, and the board authorizing rebidding of the sedan through Municipid.
Thanks, Chris. Does the board have any questions on the recommendation?
Yeah, Chris, if I could ask, what options do we have besides putting these vehicles out on this a bit. I mean, there's a couple things that have, I mean, even when these vehicles were originally put out there, the bids were coming in significantly lower than the Blue Book value that we estimated beforehand. And now we have some questionable bidders. You know, even when they put in a bid, they don't seem like they're following through. So what are our other options besides municipal?
I mean, I'm just going back and reading the section on the site class code because it constrains what you can do.
The site class township code constrains on what you can do. The only other option that I could think of would be to put a bid at notice in the newspaper and accept written bids that way, but I know the township has done that in the past, got very few bidders, and received significantly less than what we would receive previously. One of the issues with doing the Blue Book value is specifically on police vehicles, and this isn't a slight at the police department, is they need extensive modifications, and they are very well used when they go up on the auction block. So that will decrease what you get for them.
I mean, one of the options, you don't have to bid if you sell to another governmental entity. So I don't know if there's a way to advertise to other governmental entities, but that's one option. I don't know whether you find, again, I don't know if another police department would need a police vehicle and be willing to pay, you know, more than Michael McNabb, for example. But how you get that word out, I'm not really sure. I don't know if PSATs or, you know, those monthly magazines that we get, I sometimes see ads in the back of those, but, you know, it's not always, you spend money sometimes to get the money.
Particularly with the sedan, as we talked about previously, the sedan needs a $3,000 water pump repair. So the only way to really maximize the value for that would be for the township to put in the water, to do the water pump repair. And we disclosed that repair was required when we did the bidding. So that would increase the value of it, because I'm sure that is causing, needing to do that repair, I'm sure is deflating the price that someone's willing to pay for it, because they know, I believe John told me it's probably about a 20-hour project.
It takes our guys 2.5 to 3 days to do. It's involved. It shouldn't be an internal pump. But you know, the other thing with these vehicles, we strip them, so no other department's really going to want them, because they're going to have to put cages back in them, the seats back in them.
But you wouldn't have to if you knew you were trying to sell to the police department.
If
you
we
wouldn't
do,
have to do
well, yeah, but a lot of that comes out and goes to the new cars.
Okay.
And the other thing, when you try to sell one of these cars private, you know, you can have 4 holes drilled in the roof for the antennas. You can have a lot of them come, they don't even have handles inside in the back doors. There's no provision for it, so that's an expense to put in.
They have no seat belts.
Yeah, they have no seat belts in the back, because that comes out with the contour seat you guys use. So, I mean, these are, you really can't compare them to Kevin Blue, because this isn't a car that somebody drove to the Acme for groceries.
And unfortunately, using KBB is the only way that I can get a good estimate in which to start the bidding process at and get an estimate of the value. And on KBB, I can only value put in the VIN number and get the vehicle. I can't say it's a police vehicle. I can't go below fair, because to be honest with you, I would probably value these as probably poor, just because of the extensive modifications and the amount of wear that they do.
The water pump is beyond poor.
And again, that's just the nature of police work. It's not a slight of what they do. It's just the nature of it. And Mike's giving me a look saying, I know what you're saying.
And I mean, I know the guys have done 3, I think, water pumps within the last year, you know, on other vehicles. I mean, that is a common wearing on those cars.
Yeah.
When you have the hours and all of them.
And unfortunately, I think in order to get based on the history of what the township has done in selling other vehicles, I think going through municipal is your best course of action in which to get the maximum amount that you can get. I mean, it's always a risk whenever you bid it. You could get significantly higher than the estimated value, like we saw with the sewer pumper truck last year, where we got about $10,000 more than we originally estimated in some of the other vehicles earlier in the year, or you can get significantly below it. And municipal recommends that you start around 20% of the estimated value. So I start these vehicles usually around $3,000 to $5,000, depending on the estimate that we have for them.
How about for trade-in value? Is that another feasible option?
You could, but I think you're going to get less than what you would get on municipal for these vehicles. Would you say that's accurate, David?
Yeah, dealers, with the extensive modification of these cars, plus when the car is new, it gets all torn apart, the entire interior comes out. I can show you pictures. And all the equipment goes in, the interior goes back in. Our guys, throughout the course of the vehicle's life, each one has probably been pulled apart 2 or 3 times. And then at the end of the year, at the end of its life cycle, it's completely stripped. The roof liner's out, the seats are out. I mean, the only thing left is the steering wheel and the dash when they're pulling all the wiring and cables out. And then everything goes back in. They squeak, they rattle, some of the plastic breaks. I mean, it's not a civilian use vehicle.
Okay. Johnny, any follow-up question? You good? Okay. Okay, well, I'll make the motion to award the 2015 Ford Explorer XLT to Mr. Mike McNabb in the amount of $10,100 and authorize rebidding of the 2016 sedan. Extremely strict. Thank you, John. Is there any public comments or questions? Okay, ready to take a vote? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, the motion passes 3-0. Next on the agenda are reports for the month of April, and first up is the police report by Chief Carroll.
Thank you. Report from the Police Department for April 2023. We responded to 2,115 calls for service. 65 of those were alarmed, 8 of which were valid. 73 accidents, 25 of which were reportable accidents, and we drove a total of 18,384 miles. We had 32 assists to other police departments for a total of 10.26 hours, and we received 27 assists from other police departments. We performed extra traffic details on South Blue Street, Falcon Lane, Rosary Lane, Spruce Avenue, South High Street, West Warren Road, Harrowsville Road, Sunset Hollow, and Westchester Pike. And in the area of training, we did our normal monthly trainings, and in addition to that, we had our spring range training for all of our officers. Sergeant Brycer and Officer Ash went to the World Reconstruction Exhibition, which is a traffic accident investigators exhibition that happens once every 7 years. Detective Cuddy, Detective Edwards went to privately made firearms class going by the ATF, and Dispatcher DiGiacomo went to JNET Terminal Agency Coordinator, so she's our JTAC officer now. In the area of alarm, Sean, I spoke to you earlier about the fines.
Yeah.
So we billed for April at the beginning of May. I was unable on my own to determine exact fines after Jessica had left, but that will be part of the report that I will provide from here.
Yeah. So just for clarification, I asked the chief about the alarm summary report that we get going forward to amend it so that we can see, for example, on total false alarms billed. Going forward, I'd like to see what was the third false alarm, what was the fourth false alarm, how many of each of those levels we get, and then similarly for the warning issued, how many are the first and how many are the second, because we've changed that now to be 2 warnings. So it's just breaking the numbers out a little more detail. So thank you.
No problem.
Any questions for the chief on the report?
Well, just a couple of things. At a meeting on Monday, we had some discussion with a monthly liaison meeting with Team Maria and myself. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on with the Westchester Area School District, namely with their open house policy? What's going on with that, and what's going to be going on with that going into the future?
So we did have discussions with them about that policy. However, at the end of our discussions, we agreed to let them control the communication about what's going to be going forward. So I don't know if it would be appropriate to let that to the public.
That's fine. That's where it's at. There's going to be a safety conference at the school district that's conducted by the school district on the 21st of June, and the 22nd. Will our officers participate in that?
Yes, our juvenile unit will be there as well as Lieutenant Cox.
Okay. And the SRO agreement, the school resource officer agreements in effect, and how is that working out so far?
Very well. Yeah, it's going very well for us. I believe the feedback we're getting from the teachers and students is all good.
And they've been making their payments accordingly to the schedule that's outlined in the agreement?
Yes.
Okay, on another issue, how's the police promotion and hiring update, namely with the administrative sergeant, Sergeant Gordizio, and Officer DeLeon? How are they working out their new positions?
So DeLeon's doing an exceptional job. We're very happy that we were able to get him. He's going to be a great
And
officer.
why do you say that, and what capacity are you able to?
All capacities. He's respectful, he's friendly, he's intelligent, he's out there working hard with his FTO. He's been able to translate for us on several big investigations with him because he speaks Spanish. So he's been an absolute attribute to the department since we hired him.
So what did you have to do before, Officer DeLeon was on staff, as far as providing for somebody to be able to translate for you?
Get someone from outside the department to help us, either from the county or a local department.
So he's now fulfilling that role?
Very well.
Good to hear.
No, I didn't know it would take them longer to be able to get a resource like that.
Absolutely.
Anything help
And
with
it
it.
moves around, so we were lucky enough that someone was working right next door, and quicker, but if not.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I have for now.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of understand the update around the shooting range and the planned project there. I know we were waiting for Carol, structural engineer, to take a look. Has he been
I
out?
met their structural engineer first week in May.
Yeah.
And they're taking a look at it. They have a kind of report back.
Okay, so waiting for the report. Okay. Any other questions? Any questions for the chief? Very good, thank you. We also have our monthly reports from Chesapeake County Department of Emergency Services and our emergency service providers. Does the board have any questions or comments on those that we need to follow up on? Steve, you want to make anything going on we should be aware of?
It was a busy month last month.
Yes, for a lot of calls.
We had 78 calls just for
Yeah. Okay, next on the agenda is agenda item number 13, which is the Board of Supervisors announcements. Gina?
Yeah, I just have a few. April 20th, I actually spoke at the Senior Center in Westchester. They were interested in things that were happening in the community. The two main things they wanted was the mental health, the Quality Inn, and of course the shopping center. What was the store, retail store going to be there? And I talked about other things that was happening in the community. They were very receptive to it. Spent about an hour. They want to come back again and speak and just kind of keep them up to date on what's happening in the community. They asked good questions and very receptive. Also on the 20th, we had our Coalition Fire and EMS meeting. Next one will be held in July. Of course, we went to PSATs from the 23rd to the 25th. I also went to April 28th. The Chester County Library celebrated their 150th anniversary. And then they also came back to the library and showed what their construction design was going to be. $1.5 million they're going to spend over the next year to improve the library. And they showed a diagram of what they were going to do with it. So that was very interesting. On April 29th, I'm glad to say that on Arbor Day, the SAC committee planted 120 trees. We had a lot of volunteers come out. It was extremely successful, educational, and just hoping the trees live now after this. But and we take turns watering it. But it was a very good day. It actually rained most of the day, which was actually good because the soil was soft and we were able to plant a little bit easier. And Sean was there and John was there also. We got loaded with mud, but it was a good event. And the last thing was on May 1st, we all met with the Westchester University staff to talk about projects and their short and long-term goals. I just want to add next time that we should probably have the chief involved in that. I realized, I guess when we were talking to him, he wasn't involved in that meeting because we did have representation from the borough there and various other things, so we should just add him, his staff or somebody to go to that next meeting that we have with them. We can remember that between all of us.
Okay.
That's all.
Thank you, Tina. John?
Yeah, not to repeat, but on Thursday, April the 20th, I attended the Fire and EMS Coalition meeting, and right after that, we had the West Goshen Police Community Committee meeting there following that on the 20th. Then on Saturday, April the 22nd, I attended the community book discussion at the Milton Center, where there was discussion on issues in the community concerning diversity, equity, and inclusion. Then on Sunday, April the 23rd through the Monday, the 24th, and Tuesday the 25th, and Wednesday the 26th, we attended the PSATS conference up in Hershey, Pennsylvania, which is Pennsylvania's Society of Township Supervisors. And then on Monday, May the 1st, attended the BUTOG meeting with Westchester University that Tina just mentioned. And then on Monday, May the 15th, just this past Monday, we met with Chief Carroll in the morning, and then in the afternoon, we met with the Goshen Fire on issues of concern. Those are all.
Thank you, John. The board met in executive session on April the 24th to discuss performance objectives with the township manager. We met again on May the 2nd to discuss legal matters for a lease negotiation on the cell tower on this property. We also discussed legal matters associated with the real estate acquisition regarding access to Cooper Smith Park. And we also met earlier this evening to continue those discussions, as well as legal matters associated with a zoning non-conformance violation. This month I attended many of the same events that John and Tina have described, so the police community meeting on April the 20th, the PSAS conference, the View Talk meeting. I did attend the Q1 performance review meeting of the pension committee held on April the 26th. I discussed and interviewed with about the 2022 township audit with Michael Mood from the external audit company, and I really enjoyed the Arbor Day event that we had that Tina described. Any questions on the board announcements? Okay, great. So then we'll move on to township manager's announcements, agenda item 14.
Mr. Chairman, I only have a few announcements for this evening. The first of which is I am pleased to announce that the township has been awarded a $45,000 vision partnership grant from Chester County for the development of a park, open space, and recreation plan that was allocated in our 2023 budget. So we'll need to put together a scope of work and to finalize the scope of work for the grant contract, and then begin working on the development of that plan.
That would be we would bid that out, get proposals for it.
We would do an RFP and then select a consultant to help guide that. But there are certain criteria that they have to meet, subject to the county's requirements, so they'll be involved in that search process as well.
Okay.
Next item, our e-news will go out on May 23rd. The park tour that was previously scheduled for the beginning of May with the board and the members of the Park and Recreation Board will be held on June 8th. We will meet here and then tour the parks, and then Ken is arranging for dinner afterwards.
Are the friends of the parks?
Yes, the Friends of West Goshen Parks will also be involved. The gazebo dedication is scheduled for June 25th at 6 p.m. That will be before the concert in the park that evening. The Balmar Street project. We received plans for the detour and a construction schedule last week. The detour will be posted the week of May 29th, and that information is going to go up on the township website on Monday, as well as be posted on, I believe we'll also be posting it on the township social media page as well. And
on the website, will it just be an alert on the banner, or we actually have one of those articles that catches your eye on the front page?
I was going to do an alert, but we can do both, and we also have a copy of the detour plans that are on there as well.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And the work is scheduled to begin on June 5th. Right now, weather permitting. The work is slated to go through October 15th, weather permitting.
Contractor is through the 15th.
Okay.
Contractor thinks it'll be done well before that.
Okay, thank you, Dave. Our 2023 paving project is complete, and I believe that this is the earliest we have ever completed a paving project. So our paving project is complete minus punch list items and line striping. Those are the two outstanding items. And then finally, we received notification this week that PICO is going to begin tree trimming work in the township. That is going to begin in July.
Do you know which particular areas, roads?
There is a map that we are posting on the township website on social media as well.
Yeah, again, that would be great to have an article if you could catch the right about that.
There's going to be an article in the e-news that goes out on May 23rd as well. I'm going to correct what I said. There's going to be an article in the e-news with the map, and then it'll be posted on social media as well.
Cool, thank you.
But that is scheduled. They're surveying, and the work is scheduled to begin in July. And those are all my announcements for this evening.
Thank you, Chris. Next on the agenda is item number 15, Township Engineers Announcements.
Before we mention that, Sean, can I mention one thing?
Oh, yeah.
I forgot to mention when I was talking about the EMS that this Friday at 9 o'clock, they're going to hold a vigil for the EMS mental health people that had committed suicide as a result of the nature of the work that they had done. People will gather at the Good Fellowship at 9 o'clock, and for about an hour, we'll have the sirens go off, and everybody will light a candle. So I just wanted to mention that also.
Thank you, Tina.
Thanks, Sean.
Ryan?
Thank you. Tonight, my stormwater announcements are that in Greystone Greystone continues to work. Phase 5 plans were resubmitted earlier this week from the comments that were issued in December. So they are currently reviewed by Carroll Engineering for approval. I know they have started some of the bulk earthwork for Phase 5 because that was approved by their NPDES permit. But they are instructed they cannot move forward with any lots until the plan is recorded. Additionally, the dams are complete. They're both full. I've been checking them and monitoring the flow. Seem to see some wildlife out there. One issue I do see is that there's some areas where they have to do some additional rock outfalls because they've been washing out, but nothing to compromise that I can see the safety of the dams. There will be punch lists done after they get me the plans that they owe me for the dam as-built. But as of right now, the dams are functioning and in their 60-day review period by the DEP for completion. That's what I have for Greystone.
Thanks. Any questions for Brian?
Any other movement on the other projects, like shopping centers or stuff in the township?
So the shopping center, West Goshen Shopping Center, the review was issued last week. So they are working on addressing my comments. So that one has been reviewed and they have to address the comments and return to them. So that's the one. Any other application you have any interest?
Was the Wawa, and the Wawa was just in?
The Wawa at High Street. So they had their zoning hearing on May.
Sure. I was actually going to address that with the zoning officer's announcements.
Okay, so May 3rd, and then they have 45 days from that date to issue the decision, and not issued the zoning decision yet from the hearing.
Any other questions, Steve? Very good. We'll move on to.
I have one more thing under mine. I have it written down here and skipped over it. Let me bring this up here because I wanted to answer a question from earlier today. And so, the Quality Inn, which is this building right here, their application for conditional use has been submitted and accepted. It's complete. We need to put out there what would be this calendar date to schedule. Currently, the calendar runs through July, through your meeting in July, which is July the 6th, which is that week. So this is the property. Sorry, chances. This is the Quality Inn property right here, and then this corner of the property, which is where they take access, is off of Stanton Avenue, which is in West Township. So one of the things we need to do is consider is, as a board, is to schedule a hearing date. It could be last week meeting of June. It could be your first meeting in July.
Or it could be any date you want to pick.
Any date you want to pick.
And when is the 60 days out? You know.
So I believe it's around July 13th.
Okay.
July 13th has to be before then.
Correct.
Unless you get an extension, which I think this applicant's attorney would be willing, if because of vacations or whatever else. I mean, if you're close enough to the 60, but I'm saying if it just doesn't work exactly at 60, you can always request an extension. I had mentioned to Brian, I don't think I had a chance to talk to Chris, I know that when boards try to schedule hearings the week of July 4th, they get a lot of criticism, so I would try to shy away from that just because that's a very big vacation week, and I think you're going to get a big outcome for this hearing.
Okay. So the Planning Commission review this?
Yeah. It will be on the agenda for their June meeting.
So for that June meeting. So we need a week or two after that for any written notes, minutes from that meeting for the board's consideration of the conditional use hearing, right?
Yes, I don't want to put any pressure on Corey, but usually I have the minutes by Friday.
Okay.
But being that it's a conditional use, there might be more to it. I don't want to say he'll have it to me by that Friday.
Okay. So, Boyd, what are your thoughts? I mean, do we want to look at a special meeting to be held, the last week in June, or do you want to try to squeeze something in the second week in July before the 13th deadline? Or do you want to try to, I agree that the week of July 4th is not a good time to hold a conditional use hearing with the expectation that people will want to be present. And so,
Do you want to put a calendar up?
Yeah, what's the,
yeah, we probably need a calendar if you could.
Can't we just discuss it?
Why do we need a special? Well, we don't have the second meeting in June is too close to planning commission. We won't have the output from that.
Well, the
first
other thing
meeting
is,
in
do you
July is
The other,
Do you really want to have it the same night as your meetings? When your meetings sometimes go 2-3 hours, so this hearing will definitely go 2-3 hours.
this hearing could be
Definitely want to have it the
extensive.
same night as if we were at a meeting.
I guess we have to look at calendar anyway,
I'm bringing one up, hang on a second. I didn't have it configured here to show it, so I had to do this way. Here you go.
the planning commission will be meeting, what, June 13th?
Yes.
Second Tuesday of the month.
The planning commission meets June 13th, and then your next scheduled meeting is 26th. Then your next scheduled meeting would be June 20th. 20th the following week.
Why couldn't we do it then?
When?
Last week of June?
June
June
20th.
20th.
That's your meeting night.
That's your meeting.
That's your regular meeting night. Your
We're
meeting.
saying, if this is a 2 or 3 hour hearing, potentially, we've got other business to conduct, it's probably better to separate it.
That's what I suggested too, Joe, until I heard that. It's just.
3 hours?
Well, even if it's an hour here, and you have a 2-hour meeting or 3-hour meeting, you're
Still here for 4 hours.
And people don't want to just come to the hearing, they don't want to come and sit
Well,
for
it's a
2 hours.
4 hour night versus
Yeah.
messing up another night. So that's kind of what we're dealing with.
So you want to.
So the other option would be what happened the following week.
I think that also understand that the applicant has to bring witnesses, and being that that's a big vacation week, if you wanted to try to push it to the week of July 9th, I'm certain that they would grant an extension.
Because the 60-day clock runs through Sunday, July 9th, because it was, yeah, it's July 9th, I just did a calculation, because the application was deemed administratively complete on May 10th.
Yeah, you received it last Wednesday. So your two options are, because and the issue too, John, with that is we wouldn't be able to put the minutes from the planning commission meeting in the packet.
If we had the meeting for the planning commission on the 13th, we should have.
Your packet is prepared, it goes out on the 16th.
Yes.
But that's what I'm saying, have the information.
Is there any reason that we should try to do this in June or not? I don't see.
Can't we wait till July?
Yeah, you could.
Yeah, and like I said, I feel.
We need approval from.
We would need.
Yeah, and I
extension
can,
of July.
I can ask, I didn't know we were going to talk about this, sorry, I didn't prepare, I would probably would try to get dates that he's, there's just a lot of people to coordinate, so maybe if you guys want to give me some preferences, we'll go back and talk with him and then come back and solidify it through
July is what, as a plan?
July 11th is the planning
So we want to do it after that, right?
Well,
Yeah.
you want to do it after you want to do it after the June 13th planning commission meeting. So you have your board meeting on the 20th.
Right.
Then on the 26th, there's a zoning hearing board meeting. Then the 27th is an SAC meeting. Then your next scheduled board meeting is July 6th, and then the 18th. And the 60-day clock runs through July 9th. So if you were to conduct a hearing, if you were going to do something the week of July 10th, we would need an extension from the applicant.
And that Tuesday night is the planning commission meeting in July.
July 11th is the planning commission meeting.
Do you want to try to do the 12th or the 13th, the Wednesday or Thursday?
Well, we have a coalition meeting on the 13th. At 5.
How long does that go? You could schedule this for 6, and I can schedule it for 6.
Or we could do the 12th.
I don't know if you want to check with Ashley.
What do we think about doing our mid-year budget review?
Probably your second week of July.
I would prefer a separate meeting, but I'm very flexible, so
I would prefer the 12th.
12th of July.
Yes.
I'm going to check if that's available. Okay. What, 6 o'clock start time? 6 o'clock?
I'm open at 5.
Well, we should respect the people who are attending, so 6 o'clock.
Okay.
All right. We will check with that and confirm that.
It was town credit.
Check that tomorrow.
Yeah, you can check with Lou on the
Yeah.
2-day extension,
Yeah.
or 3 days.
You won't have a problem.
So I have to send an email out around.
Yeah.
with confirmation.
Sure.
Okay, so we'll hear, what was the date of the decision?
July 12th, 6 p.m., Wednesday, July 12th, 6 p.m.
Thank you, Brian, for bringing that up.
Yeah, thanks, Brian.
No problem. Sorry, Outlook's not on this computer, so I go to the web stuff.
Okay, so was that it for engineers report?
That's it for my report.
Okay, so we're on to item number 16, which is the zoning officer's announcements.
Mr. Chairman, there are 3 matters that are before the zoning hearing board currently. The first, as we mentioned, was the application for 929 South High Street, which is the Parkway Center. That hearing was conducted on May 3rd. I understand it was very well attended. And they have 45 days in which to render a decision. I believe they're going to look this. We just got the hearing transcript on Wednesday, so I do believe they're going to look to schedule a special meeting in which to render the decision on that application. We have an application for 1126 Grove Road that is scheduled to be heard on June 26, 2023. We have we talked about this meeting at the board's last meeting on May 2nd. We did have the subsequent meeting with the property owner and outlined options that were available to them and are awaiting their determination on next steps. And then finally, there is an application for 992 South Balmar Street, which Brian has brought an aerial up on the screen for the board. The property owner is seeking a dimensional variance from section 8438B6 of the zoning ordinance in order to have a 16.5-foot side yard setback where a 30-foot side yard setback is required, and they're looking to construct. This is in order to construct a 4,500 square foot addition. I did discuss this application with Robert Heil for code inspections, and we don't see a concern with the requested variance. The addition would need to comply with the Township Stormwater Management Ordinance due to the size. Additionally, the property will need to go through the subdivision and land development process for the proposed addition and to reverse subdivide the parcels that are proposed to be combined. In the application, in the addendum, they do discuss reverse subdividing 2 of the parcels that are owned by the property owner. This is a location of our work and family steel company. In fact, they're a metal manufacturer.
Could you show the 2 parcels there?
So the 2 parcels are parcel 224
Yeah.
and parcel 216.
So
this is the line
there.
This line right
There.
This line off the corner of Snare Avenue is the property line they're proposing to extinguish to combine the parcels. And then this building I'm circling right now with the pointer is where they're looking to make the expansion. And this corner, this little notch corner here of parcel 223 is where the side yard setback will be taken, is where the relief is being sought. This parcel 223, I'll move it up a little bit, is a basically vacant parcel, 6.9 acres, it's owned by SEPTA.
Okay.
And the parcel directly behind them as well, parcel 215, back here, is also owned by SEPTA. So the two parcels that are directly adjacent to them are both owned by SEPTA.
How long have they been owned by SEPTA? A long time?
Uh, 1980.
Why does SEPTA need those properties? I mean,
Is that the extension of the railroad?
Yeah, there's a rail line right
Railroad,
there.
it's the extension of the railroad.
Yeah, there's a rail line right here.
Oh, yeah.
What's the zoning for that area?
It is in the I-2 zoning district.
So we don't have any residences we're talking about here.
You can just show me again, Brian, where the setback variance is being requested. Kind of zoom in on it a little bit, maybe.
I can, bring up the plan here too for you.
Yeah.
So in this plan, the line, the vertical line here, that's the property line that's being extinguished.
Yeah.
This is the notch, and this is the extension of that building.
Okay.
Now I'll go back to the map and show you the building on the map.
So the closest property owner that would be impacted by the smaller setback is SEPTA, is what you're saying?
Correct. this is the building, and then this is the setback. And it almost looks like they have their, I don't know if the pipeline's accurate, but part of their driveway is
Yeah,
always
it's
on
like
it.
it's on that property.
Yes. If you zoom out a little bit, it's a wooded property, and here's your latch track. It's right here. So that's the area of the setback, is that corner of the property.
And that's the only variance that's being requested?
Yes.
Okay. I don't have any issues.
So you're looking for a determination from the board whether it be neutral? Okay.
Yes.
It's just be neutral.
Yep. Tina, you okay? No.
The application will be heard on May 22nd, on Monday evening, May 22nd.
Anything else? Chris O'Brien?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Zoning, okay. Well, were there any public questions on this? No? Okay. Next on the agenda is approval of the Board of Supervisors meeting minutes of April the 18th and May 2nd, 2023. Has the board had a chance to review the minutes, and is there any corrections or adjustments needed? John?
I have one.
John has one.
Page 5, April 18th meeting, top line. Ms. Gagnon asked about the estimated cost for the work associated. I think what that should read should say, Ms. Gagnon asked about the estimated cost for associated engineering work. Does that make more sense?
She was asking about the cost for the...
That's correct. She was asking about the cost for Carroll Engineering's
Okay.
work.
Not for the... Because Brian provided the cost, rough cost for
It was for the
project,
It
right?
was the engineering work.
Okay, for the engineering work, for the associated engineering work. Thank you, John. Chris, you got that?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Are there any other corrections?
No.
I'll make the motion to approve the meeting minutes of April the 18th and May the 2nd with that amendment to the April 18th minutes.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Tina. Any public comments or questions on the motion? Okay, we'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Hearing none, the motion passes 3-0. Agenda item number 18 is approval of the Treasurer's Report dated April the 30th for the General Fund, the Sewer Revenue Fund, the Waste and Recycling Fund, and the Capital Reserve Fund, and the bills to be paid from these funds. Does the board have any questions about the Treasurer's Report or the bills to be paid? John, you have any questions?
No.
I do not either, so I will make the motion to approve the Treasurer's Report and the bills to be paid for the report dated April 30th. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, John. Any public comments or questions? Okay, we'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is there any opposition? But the motion passes 3-0. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor of adjournment, say aye. Aye. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks. See you.